The divorce papers landed on my desk at 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. Not at home, not during a conversation. At my workplace, where I'd spent the last 15 years building a reputation for reliability and calm professionalism. Special delivery for Daniel Mercer, the courier had announced, loud enough for my colleagues to look up from their desks. I remember the smirk on his face as he handed me the manila envelope, as if he knew exactly what it contained. Perhaps he did. Perhaps he delivered these kinds of bombs every day. My hands didn't shake as I opened it. That came later. For that moment, I just stared at the words, "Petition for Dissolution of Marriage," while the floor seemed to tilt beneath me. 12 years summarized in legal terminology, reduced to asset divisions and custody arrangements. Our dog, Max, was listed as personal property to be retained by the petitioner. At the bottom was Monica's signature, the same looping script that had once written love notes and signed our anniversary cards. Now it authorized the dismantling of our life together. "Everything okay, Dan?" My manager, Liam, stood at my cubicle entrance, concern etched across his face. I slid the papers back into the envelope. "Family matter," I said quietly. "I need to step out for the rest of the day." He nodded, no questions asked. That's what 15 years of never calling in sick or leaving early gets you, the benefit of the doubt. In my car, I sat motionless, staring at the steering wheel. My phone vibrated with a text. Monica. "I assume you got the papers. Don't come home tonight. I've changed the locks. Your things will be boxed up by the weekend." No explanation, no apology, just logistics. I started the engine and drove, not home. Apparently that wasn't mine anymore, but to a hotel near the office. It was only then, alone in a room that smelled of industrial cleaner and someone else's cologne, that my hands finally began to shake. I'm Daniel Mercer, 43 senior financial analyst at Brighton Consulting. The quiet one in meetings who speaks only when necessary, but is listened to when he does. The reliable husband who never missed an anniversary, who held Monica's hand through 3 miscarriages and supported her through 2 failed business ventures. The man who drove her to therapy appointments every Wednesday for 2 years, when anxiety had her too paralyzed to drive herself. After checking into the hotel, I sat on the edge of the bed and tried to understand what had happened. Monica and I weren't perfect, but we were solid, or so I thought. We'd weathered the storms that sink other marriages. We'd built a life in our suburban Seattle home with weekend hikes and quiet dinners. We had plans. I scrolled through our text messages from the past few weeks, looking for signs, for warnings I'd missed. The last message from her 3 days ago: "Don't wait up, girls' night running late." Before that, excuses, cancellations, rain checks. When had she become a stranger? It started small, about 3 months ago. Monica's sudden interest in privacy, password changes on her phone, hushed conversations that ended when I entered the room, shopping bags from stores we couldn't afford, weekend retreats with friends I'd never met. I'd asked, of course. "Is everything okay?" "Just busy with work," she'd said. Or, "You wouldn't understand." Or simply, "I'm fine, Daniel." Stop hovering. But it wasn't until a week after receiving the divorce papers that I learned the truth. I was meeting with Alan Chen, the lawyer I'd hired, when he slid a news clipping across the desk. "Did you know about this?" he asked. It was a small announcement from the State Lottery Commission, dated 3 weeks before the divorce papers arrived. A $3.7 million jackpot claimed by an anonymous winner. "I don't understand," I said. Alan pulled out another document. "The winner set up an LLC to claim the prize. We did some digging." He tapped the paper. "The LLC is registered under your sister-in-law's name, but we have reason to believe your wife is the actual beneficiary." The room seemed to compress around me. "Monica won the lottery and didn't tell me?" "Not just didn't tell you," Alan said grimly. She deliberately hid it and filed for divorce immediately after securing the funds offshore. This was planned, Daniel. That night I drove to our house, her house now, and parked across the street. The lights were on. A silver BMW I didn't recognize sat in the driveway. I watched as a man I'd never seen before came out the front door, kissed my wife goodnight, and drove away. When I rang the doorbell, Monica answered in silk pajamas, looking irritated rather than surprised. "You shouldn't be here," she said, blocking the entrance. "Did you win the lottery?" I asked quietly. Something flickered across her face, alarm, quickly masked by defiance. "Who told you that? Is it true?" She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "What if I did?" "It has nothing to do with you." "We're still legally married," I said. "Those winnings are marital property." She laughed then, a cold sound I'd never heard from her before. "That money came to me, not us. I earned it by surviving your sad little life. Let's not pretend you ever gave me anything worth keeping." She smirked, adding, "Be grateful. I'll let you keep the old car unless you want me to repo that too." I stood there, absorbing the cruelty from this woman who had once promised to love me through better or worse. The woman I'd held through grief and anxiety. The woman I'd believed in. "Is he why?" I asked, nodding toward the driveway where the BMW had been. "Jason? He's part of it." She shrugged. "He makes me feel alive. You're just there. Predictable. Boring." Her eyes narrowed. "Are we done with this little confrontation? I have plans to make." I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply turned and walked away, her words burning in my ears. That night in my hotel room, I made my own plans. I didn't sleep. Instead, I researched. By morning, I had made 3 appointments. One with Alan Chen to discuss our next steps, one with a forensic accountant specializing in asset tracing, and one with a private investigator. "We need evidence," Alan explained in his office the next day. "If she used joint funds to purchase the ticket, if there's a paper trail connecting her to this mysterious LLC, if you can prove she deliberately concealed assets, we have a case." The forensic accountant, Melissa Reyes, was blunt. "Offshore accounts aren't as untraceable as people think, especially when amateurs set them up." She smiled thinly. "No offense to your wife, but most people who try to hide money make rookie mistakes." The private investigator, a retired police detective named Frank Dawson, promised to document Monica's movements, her relationship with Jason, and any connections to the lottery win. For the next 2 months, I lived a double life. At work, I was the same reliable Daniel, though colleagues noticed I was quieter than usual. "Divorce will do that," they murmured sympathetically when they thought I couldn't hear. In my off hours, I became a collector of evidence, a chronicler of betrayal. I gathered bank statements showing withdrawals from our joint account on the day the lottery ticket was purchased. I obtained security footage from the convenience store where Monica bought the ticket, using our joint debit card. I compiled Instagram photos of Monica and Jason at a luxury resort in Mexico, time-stamped during a weekend she'd told me was a work retreat. Most damning of all, Frank discovered text messages between Monica and her sister, Vanessa. "The LLC is set up. Once the money transfers, I'll file the papers and be free, rich and free." What about Daniel? What about him? By the time he figures it out, the money will be untouchable. Besides, he's too pathetic to fight back. I read those messages in Frank's office, feeling a strange calm descend. The woman in those texts wasn't the Monica I knew. Or perhaps she was, and I'd been blind all along. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between strategy sessions and evidence gathering, memories would ambush me. Monica on our wedding day, radiant in a simple white dress, whispering, "It's always been you, Daniel. It will always be you." Monica curled against me during thunderstorms, her body trembling with each boom, finding safety in my arms. Monica laughing at our kitchen table, planning our future, our family, our forever. Had it all been a lie? Or had something broken along the way? Something I'd failed to notice or repair? Other memories surfaced too, ones I'd dismissed at the time. Monica's disappointment when I was passed over for promotion 3 years ago. "I thought you were more ambitious," she'd said, her growing obsession with her more successful friends' lifestyles. The way she'd started referring to our modest home as temporary, even though we'd chosen it together. The red flags had been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. One night, alone in my hotel room, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. There was Monica, kneeling beside Max, our rescue German shepherd, on the day we'd brought him home. She'd cried then, overwhelmed by his immediate trust in her. "He knows I'll take care of him," she'd said. Now she wanted to take him from me, too. I closed the photos and called Alan. "I want Max," I said without preamble. "Whatever else happens, I want my dog." While Monica flaunted her new wealth, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, weekend getaways with Jason, I quietly prepared. I opened a new bank account at a different bank. I secured copies of all our financial records. I documented every communication, every sighting, every piece of evidence connecting her to the lottery winnings. Melissa traced the money from the lottery commission to the LLC, then to an offshore account in the Caymans, and finally to a new account Monica had opened in her name alone. The paper trail was messy, but unmistakable. "She got sloppy," Melissa said. "She was in such a hurry to hide the money that she left fingerprints all over it." Frank continued his surveillance, documenting Monica and Jason's relationship. "They're not being discreet," he reported. "She's introduced him to friends as her boyfriend. They're talking about buying property together in Maui." "Using my wife's lottery winnings," I said flatly. Frank nodded. "Money that, legally speaking, is half yours." I received another text from Monica, demanding I sign a quitclaim deed, transferring the house entirely to her. "It's the least you can do," she wrote. "Consider it payment for all the years I wasted with you." I didn't respond. I simply forwarded the message to Alan, another piece of evidence for our growing case. The betrayal escalated. Monica attempted to empty our joint savings account, but I'd already moved most of the funds. She tried to sell our vacation timeshare without my signature. She even contacted my employer, claiming I had substance abuse issues and suggesting they check my work for errors. "She's getting desperate," Alan observed. "She knows something's off because you're not fighting back the way she expected." "When will she realize I'm fighting forward, not back?" I asked. He smiled grimly. "At the preliminary hearing. That's when the trap springs shut." The day before the hearing, Frank brought me one final piece of evidence, proof that Monica had forged my signature on loan documents, using our house as collateral to secure funds for her and Jason's planned property purchase in Maui. "This isn't just hiding assets anymore," Alan said when I showed him. "This is fraud, criminal fraud." But the true scale of Monica's deception didn't become clear until we received the financial disclosure documents her lawyer had prepared for the court. The lottery winnings weren't mentioned, the offshore accounts weren't listed, the new BMW was omitted, the loan against our house was absent. Instead, she painted a picture of herself as a woman of modest means, entitled to spousal support from her financially stable husband. She claimed emotional distress, hinted at unspecified emotional abuse, and demanded not just the house but compensation for her years of supporting your career. It was breathtaking in its audacity, and it was all documented, signed, and submitted to the court as true under penalty of perjury. "She just handed us the final nail for her coffin," Alan said quietly. On the morning of the hearing, Monica arrived at the courthouse in designer heels and a sleek suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Jason waited in the lobby, scrolling through his phone, the dutiful new boyfriend. They both ignored me as I passed. Monica's lawyer, an aggressive woman in her 50s named Eileen Barrett, approached us before we entered the courtroom. "My client is willing to be generous," she began. "She'll waive spousal support if Mr. Mercer agrees to surrender all claims to the house and personal property within." Alan smiled politely. "We'll present our position to the judge." Inside the courtroom, Monica sat confidently, occasionally glancing at me with something like pity. I kept my eyes forward, my expression neutral. The weight of everything we'd discovered, everything we were about to reveal, sat heavy in the briefcase beside me. Judge Harriet Winters, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, reviewed the initial filings with an increasingly furrowed brow. "Ms. Barrett, your client's financial disclosures seem sparse, given the lifestyle described elsewhere in these documents." "My client has been frugal, Your Honor," Barrett replied smoothly. "Unlike her husband, who has recently been liquidating joint assets." Judge Winters turned to Alan. "Mr. Chen, your response?" Alan stood. "Your Honor, we are prepared to demonstrate that Ms. Mercer has not only failed to disclose significant assets, but has actively concealed them with intent to defraud both Mr. Mercer and this court." And then he began our methodical presentation. The lottery win, documented with official records and surveillance footage. The hastily established LLC under Vanessa's name. The offshore transfers. The new accounts. The forged loan documents. The text messages revealing the deliberate plan to hide assets until after the divorce. With each new piece of evidence, Monica's expression shifted, from confidence to concern to barely concealed panic. Her lawyer kept leaning over, whispering urgently, as Monica shook her head in denial. By the time Alan played the convenience store security footage showing Monica purchasing the lottery ticket with our joint debit card, her face had gone completely white. "Furthermore, Your Honor," Alan continued, "Ms. Mercer's signed financial disclosure deliberately omits these assets, a felony-level financial misrepresentation to the court." Monica's jaw literally dropped. She grabbed her lawyer's arm, whispering frantically. Judge Winters' expression had grown increasingly severe. "Ms. Barrett, were you aware of these undisclosed assets?" Barrett looked stricken. "No, Your Honor, I was not." "In light of this evidence," Judge Winters said, "I am issuing a 72-hour emergency injunction freezing all accounts connected to Monica Mercer, the LLC registered to Vanessa Clark, and any offshore accounts linked to either party." She fixed Monica with a cold stare. "This court does not look kindly on attempts to conceal marital assets, Ms. Mercer, nor on submitting falsified documents." As the bailiff handed the injunction order to a court clerk for immediate processing, I watched Monica collapse into her chair, reality finally crashing down around her. The full divorce proceedings took another 3 months, but the outcome was never in doubt after that first hearing. Judge Winters, infuriated by the attempted fraud on her court, showed no mercy. I was awarded 70% of the lottery winnings, a decision Judge Winters explained with cutting clarity. The ticket was purchased with marital funds during the marriage. The attempt to conceal these winnings demonstrates bad faith that this court cannot ignore. Monica lost all rights to spousal support. She was ordered to pay my legal fees in full. The house had to be sold, with proceeds divided according to the same 70-30 split. And in a decision that visibly devastated Monica more than any financial penalty, Judge Winters granted me full custody of Max. Given Ms. Mercer's demonstrated dishonesty and instability, the judge explained, I believe the family pet would be better situated with Mr. Mercer. When the final hearing ended, I stood in the courthouse corridor with Max's leash in one hand and the final judgment in the other. Monica approached, her designer outfit replaced by a simple blouse and slacks, her makeup subdued. "You've destroyed me," she said quietly. "Are you happy now?" I looked at this woman I had once loved more than anything, trying to reconcile her with the person who had plotted my financial ruin, who had dismissed our years together as worthless, who had been willing to commit fraud to get what she wanted. "I didn't destroy anything, Monica," I finally said. "I just made sure the truth came out." She laughed bitterly. "The truth? The truth is I wasted the best years of my life with a man who couldn't give me what I wanted." "And what was that?" "More," she said simply. "Always more." As she walked away, I realized she would never understand what she had lost, and it wasn't the money. The aftermath played out exactly as one might expect. The media coverage of the lottery divorce fraud was extensive, with most articles painting Monica as a cautionary tale of greed gone wrong. Local law firms, hesitant to be associated with someone who had attempted to defraud the court, quietly declined to hire her for the paralegal position she had once held before our marriage. Jason disappeared as soon as the money did, his dreams of a Maui property evaporating with the frozen accounts. According to Frank, who stayed in touch, Jason was already dating a real estate agent from Bellevue. Vanessa, facing potential legal consequences for her role in the LLC scheme, publicly distanced herself from her sister. "I was misled about the nature of the business arrangement," she told a local news blog, throwing Monica under the bus to save herself. With her reputation in tatters, her boyfriend gone, her sister estranged, and her finances decimated by legal fees and penalties, Monica eventually moved back to Portland to live with her parents. I heard from mutual friends that she was reminded daily of her fall from grace, her mother's passive-aggressive comments about learning to be satisfied, a constant soundtrack to her new life. Meanwhile, I sold our house. Too many memories lingered there, and bought a smaller place near a park where Max could run. I invested most of my share of the lottery winnings, donated some to the animal shelter where we'd found Max, and kept enough liquid to ensure I'd never have to worry about financial security again. I declined all interview requests, turned down book deals, and refused to participate in a documentary some production company wanted to make about the case. My story wasn't for public consumption. It wasn't entertainment. It was my life, and I wanted it back. A year later, I ran into Vanessa at a coffee shop in Seattle. She was in town for a conference and looked uncomfortable at the sight of me. "Daniel," she said, hovering near my table. How are you?" "I'm well," I replied, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. "Would you like to sit?" She hesitated, then sat, clutching her coffee cup like a shield. "I want you to know I didn't realize what Monica was planning. Not at first." "But you did eventually," I said. It wasn't a question. She nodded, eyes downcast. "She's my sister. She said it was just about protecting her winnings, making sure she got what she deserved." She looked up. "I know that doesn't excuse it." "How is she?" I found myself asking, surprised by my own curiosity. "Managing," Vanessa said carefully. "Working at our dad's office, dating someone new, an accountant, very stable, very predictable." She offered a small, awkward smile. "She asks about Max sometimes." I showed her a recent photo of him on my phone, gray now around his muzzle, but still bright-eyed and happy. "He looks good," Vanessa said. "You both do." She hesitated, then added, "For what it's worth, I think she regrets it. Not just getting caught, but all of it." I considered this as I put my phone away. Perhaps it was true. Perhaps Monica had learned something from losing everything. Perhaps someday she would understand that her sad little life with me had actually been rich in all the ways that mattered. But that was her journey now, not mine. "I should get going," I said, gathering my things. "It was good to see you, Vanessa." "You too, Daniel." She paused. "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. Was I happy? After the betrayal, the legal battle, the dissolution of a life I'd thought was solid? "I'm at peace," I said finally. "That's enough." As I walked home with the afternoon sun warm on my face, Max trotting contentedly beside me, I realized it was true. There was no gloating satisfaction in how things had ended with Monica, no burning desire for further retribution. The justice had been clean and complete, but more importantly, I had emerged intact. Not unchanged, I would never be that trusting again, but whole. That night, a text message arrived from an unknown number. "I'm sorry." Just that. No name, but I knew who it was from. I didn't respond. Some conversations are better left finished, some chapters better left closed. Instead, I scratched Max behind the ears, opened a book I'd been meaning to read, and settled into the quiet victory of a life reclaimed. Not perfect, not without scars, but mine on my terms. And in the end, that was worth more than any lottery could pay. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.